Hey guys, here we go today with a different flare tip from Gillette. This is the UK version. We're going to compare it with yesterday's blue tip, the super speed flare tip from the United States. And this is the rocket flare tip from the UK. And we also have a B9A brush from Declaration Grooming with a That Darn Rob handle, and we're going to get that in some water here. 24 millimeter. I have a 28 millimeter brush from that same batch, and it just had too much backbone for me, and so I'm hoping that I was able to find somebody that had a 24 millimeter that they wanted to part with. So I'm very glad to have found that, because that batch kind of, for a while there, he said he had plenty of hair left, and then a few months later it was all gone, and so I missed out on my opportunity to get one myself directly from Scott. I'm going to use the same blade as we did yesterday inside the blue tip, and then today we're going to go with another of the recent releases from Declaration Grooming. So we're doing the brush from Declaration Grooming in terms of the knot, and the soap as well. This is Big Soap Energy. And it has, for the scent notes, it's got black amber, rosewood, and cardamom. And then underneath those notes is a base of vetiver. Those are encouraging, and seem like kind of right up my alley with maybe I know I like cardamom in a couple of different scents. You can smell little hints of rosewood, but it's not feminine at all. This is a small sample, and so the container here is kind of small, and so you can better believe I'm going to use my 1/4 teaspoon measure, and that way I can make this sample go as far as it can go. And see, you don't need to use a whole lot even out of these little tiny guys. They'll still give you a few shaves if you ration it out, and you don't end up wasting very much. At least for me, they do. All right. And I discovered yesterday that I had 2 passes left over of suds of lather when I used a full 1/4 teaspoon. So I don't believe I need to use the full 1/4 teaspoon here. It's a really soft soap base, kind of almost a cream. And so I'm pressing it into the bottom of my bowl and just making sure I get all of it out of my little thing here. So the Big Soap Energy, the Aftershave, I would imagine, and the cologne, the EDP or EDT, whatever he is choosing to go with, is called Big Scent Energy, and the soap is called Big Soap Energy, using a different word for the letter S. And he said it's an unassuming, classy scent. Doesn't put on airs because he doesn't need to. He's kind of painted a little picture for us. And then he talked about the rosewood, the cardamom, and the black amber. And so I'm looking forward to trying this scent out. This looks like maybe we're going to be doing the 11th shave with this blade. We talked, if you're interested in some of the differences between those American Silver Speeds and Super Speeds and this rocket flare tip, then look for yesterday's video. The previous one, it's one where I was holding up a blue tip, and then it had a little tiny sample container as well, and that one was Bangarang. And the Bangarang was just a little bit too floral for me. And so unfortunately it's not one that I'm going to enjoy very much. The knurling on this guy is very crisp, very grabby to your fingers. And you can tell it doesn't seem like it's had tons of use. I would think they might have been worn down just a little bit if it had. And so we're all loaded up. Let me get my face wet. Cold water now that we're in the winter. So I'm very curious how the brush is going to do. I really enjoyed the tips of my B9A in the larger brush, but there was just so much density there that I just wish it could have been a little bit more relaxed and easier to keep in display. And so I thought, you know what, if we remove a lot of that size and get a smaller knot, then we remove some of those supporting hairs that are part of that density whole thing going on. And so smaller means more room for the bristles to move around and splay and things like that. So let's just see. How everything goes. Shake out a good bit of the water. And then we will start working on this, and I'll go ahead and bend you down to see. Love these That Darn Rob handles. I'm not really a big fan of red, and so that big, is it a ferrule? I don't really know. That's not quite my style, but sometimes you can't be very choosy when you're trying to get a certain batch or a certain knot built into a certain, and it happens to be built into a certain handle. I'm feeling some backbone in this brush right now. I believe yesterday it was the water I used in the soap was maybe 2.5 teaspoons. So why don't we go ahead and just put in 1.5. I may have used a little bit less soap this time, and so I don't want to put in too much water. I don't mind approaching when I'm far away. I don't mind approaching with 1 teaspoon at a time or 1.5 teaspoons, but then once I think I'm getting close, I like to approach a little bit more slowly with just maybe 1/2 teaspoon at a time or something like that. Oh, the rosewood is jumping out a little stronger now. A little hard pressed at this point to pick out like the black amber, even the vetiver. I don't think I'm smelling too much of the cardamom either, but I'm a little inexperienced with cardamom as a scent. Two teaspoons now have been added to the lather. It is the Milksteak soap base from Declaration Grooming. It's got some skin moisturizers and things like that, and so it does, this particular one does run a little kind of low. It doesn't puff up and get airy at all. And it is one that I've found that I need to run a little bit drier than I usually do, but not too bad. We don't have tons of lather going here, but that should be plenty. And I think I will add another 1/2 teaspoon here. I do have hard water at this location, so as you can see, the soap-based lather is just fine with hard water. Maybe you'll get even more soap, more lather from your amount if you have soft water. So far this handle is working very well. I'm gripping it in this kind of grip where my fingers aren't really coming in to touch this wall. There's this wall from the big ferrule right there, and sometimes the tips of my fingers get pressed up against that when I'm using it, and it's not as comfortable as you might think. But right now the fatness of this butt end over here is allowing me to very comfortably and securely hold it for this type of movement here, and so it's doing very well at that. I've done a lot of studying over the ergonomics of a handle, paying very close attention to the ones that I buy and all that. I think we can add a little bit more water. Big soap energy. That rosewood is just a really strong scent right here. Now, fortunately, it does have a woody part to it, and so it's not, there's a sweet element that comes with the rose. It's not that feminine, really, because of that woodiness. However, that's not really a scent that I want around me a lot, and so this sample may be doing a good job of helping me to know whether I might want this or not. Looks like we're going to have plenty of lather to do the job, and I think I'm going to quit adding at this point just to make sure that I don't overdo it and get it too thin. Let's pull it down here and get up under it and pull up about half of it to maybe show you guys the elasticity of everything. Give that a shot. Yeah, lather looks really good. Nice and creamy. And wet in my face. Okay, here we go. See how this smaller B9A feels. I tried to make that larger one work. Just so dense. This one is actually really dense too. So maybe it doesn't matter too much that it's a color that's not quite my style, because I may have to be passing this brush on to somebody else as well. A lot of density, wow. Almost, I mean, just as much really as my 28. Give it a few uses, you know, just to make sure. Get a little bit more lather. Yeah, right now the dominant scent is rosewood, and that's because of its woody and sweet nature. It is, you know, not all that feminine. And so if I had to use this because I was stranded somewhere, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Very dense brush. Changing directions like this, you really feel it. So maybe it worked out that I missed out on my own B9A. I mean, Worst case, I mean, I could only see perhaps going even smaller, like with a 20 millimeter or something like that, and I just wouldn't have known to do that. And so, unless this guy really changes over the next few shaves with it, I don't really see him being a keeper either, just because of all that density. There are definitely guys who like that backbone, you know, but not me. I've been saying density this whole time, and I just now realized that I believe what I have been meaning to say was a lot of backbone due to density. So I'm sorry for the lack of specificity there. All right, so we've got a GSB inside this UK version of the flare tip, and it's the Rocket flare tip. So let's see how it shaves, and we'll do it with the blue tip, kind of fresh in my mind. It did really well, the blue tip, yesterday. This is more noisy. Many times I've found the UK versions of certain razors to be very smooth compared to their American counterparts, but this is kind of being a little on the noisy side. It is a little heavier than the blue tip. The blue is the lighter of the super speed flare tips on purpose. And so you don't have to pull this one through the hair quite as much. But it's a very similar feel. One of my favorite super speeds, probably my favorite of the kind of American super speed bunch. You've got the 40s super speed with the thin handle. You've got the black tip, the blue tip, the red tip, and then the standard, which has the flare tip, and it's a silver tip, so that's the standard one. That 40 style has got to be my favorite. And we're not taking off any extra days of growth or anything right now. It's a standard 24-hour shave growth period, amount, something like that. And rinse. All right. Now it also could be that the brush needs a little bit more soak time than I gave it to let things kind of soften up. So that's why we know we're going to try it more times than just once, because maybe it needs more time to relax than I gave it today. Okay, just going to even out the coating here. Don't need to scrub too much on any pass other than the first one, since you've already done scrubbing. Hey, here's another note feature. Speaking of scrubbing, you don't need to use a face scrub or any type of abrasive face wash before the shave. That's can often lead guys into exfoliating too much. Don't use an exfoliating product right before your shave, because the razor is the exfoliating product, and so you're kind of doing double duty on your skin, and that might be just too much. A dermatologist recommended not to use any kind of exfoliating product before a shave. So I'm just passing that word along, since the razor is going to do all that for you. Definitely had some complaints of people who had irritation, and then they would talk about their routine, and lo and behold, they were doing some kind of face wash with a scrub exfoliating attribute to it, and then doing the shave. That was a very nice pass, very smooth. It could be that this razor, this rocket flare tip gives a similar feel as the blue tip, but does it with a little bit more efficiency. We'll see. And let's do a rinse. All right, last pass. And yeah, we do. You can tell that I backed off on the soap a little bit this time, not quite doing the whole 1/4 teaspoon. And I've got just enough lather to do the job and a little bit extra, and I might be able to squeeze some more out of the brush, but this kind of might be about the perfect amount of lather if you're just talking about economy and making what you need. I think the tips in this brush did soften up between the first pass and this one. Pretty soft, not the softest. And I'm glad they're not gelling. I don't like gel. But if he's catering to a bunch of people who like gel tips, I can see why not too many people bought the B9A, and why I bet he came up with the B9A Plus to take the B9A hairs that weren't selling and gel them up a little bit more. I would guess that might be what had to happen. All right, cross grain again, light touch as always. And I'm not hearing very much. So that tells to me either this is so mild that it's not getting close to the hairs, or it has already done such a good job of cutting that it doesn't have any hairs to cut. Let's go the opposite direction on my trouble spot next to Adam's. Oh, that's nice. That is just, that's very smooth. Oh man, that's good. The blue tip did not do that well. It had a little bit of feel when I did that move yesterday. I am feeling just a little tenderness. We'll see if it's still there, kind of after the rinses and things like that. Have nice residual slickness here. If I want to touch up any areas, I can, I've got a few little suds here, and I can kind of move those around a little bit, and and do, Kevy Shaves I think likes to call them pickups. He's a good guy to watch if you like face lathering, and kind of a drier lather. He doesn't like his as wet as I like mine, I think. Now, I don't know whether I'm getting a little bit nose blind to that rosewood, or if it has done its job during the shave and it's now making way for the next stage, the next type of scent that is in there, if it's all kind of evaporating. But I am starting to smell what I'm assuming is cardamom. It's a kind of a spice. I like that a lot better. So that sweetness that's associated with the rosewood has kind of gone. To a good degree. It's still there a little bit. Still not one I don't think I'm going to pick it up because there are just so many good ones out there. But not for me. So I'm thankful for this sample. Really glad I got to try it out. With cool names like that, you always wonder. And with the cardamom, black amber. The black amber just didn't really show up today here. I didn't really pick him up. I was looking forward to him. I don't like a lot of amber, but I believe I might like a tweak, the darker tweak with the black amber. I'm assuming that. And cardamom I know that I like. There's a Passion from Soap Commander is a vegan soap that uses cardamom and teakwood as a part of that scent, and I really, really enjoy that scent. And then I always like vetiver too, especially mixed with these kinds of notes. And so, and I know that I have smelled and enjoyed rosewood in some different scents, especially because it likes to. Here's how rosewood is really cool. It's got a sweetness to it that I was talking about before, and so you can use that sweetness to counterbalance something stronger, like a woody note, like an oud or vetiver, or something spicier and savory, that kind of thing. You can something with some oomph to it, and that sweetness can play with that and add some balance to it in a really beautiful way. And I've seen some different soaps do that. And so anytime I see rosewood in a scent, I think this could be really cool. In this case, it seems to be the dominant scent during the shave, and so that's unfortunate for me. And then at the end, it looks like it does fade and give way to maybe the cardamom and the vetiver. Might be my guess. Mostly the cardamom is what my nose is picking up. But my economy of soap, a little bit less than a quarter teaspoon, did great today. And we'll use this a few more times just to make sure that it's not going to relax anymore. And since it is a discontinued batch at this point, I may just keep it around for a while, and instead of just giving it a few more times to open up, I may give it a good many times. We'll see. But I mean, I've got enough brushes anyway, so it's not like I need to work hard to sacrifice to make this thing work, right? All right. Well, that went really well. I don't have any tenderness at all. Now, let's take a look at the results. I was right. That is a much closer cut than I got yesterday with the blue tip. And so, wow. So it is a little bit more vocal, a little bit more scrapey feeling only on that first pass. But my guess is that it's just so efficient that does a couple of things. The second pass and the third pass were both very comfortable, and you almost felt like, am I even cutting anything? Because of that efficiency, it's what I'm thinking, so much got cut during that first pass. And then so it's more efficient like that. And then I can't remember what my second point was. Anyway, okay, never mind then. And I didn't really bring anything special with me for the aftershave, so let me see what I have around. Yeah, why not? I'll use this. This is kind of a modern scent balm type thing. It's called hydrogel, and it's from the Lidl, Lidl, little department, a grocery type store, a small type store that's cropping up in different places. 24-hour hydration, it says. Extra light, non-greasy, moisturizing gel. And it's got a decent scent to it. It's not really going to bother anything. Kind of a modern, young type scent. You have another one that's yellow, I think, called Skin Booster, and that one works for me pretty well also. A little bit on the thick side, so sometimes if you find that your fingers irritate your skin when you're applying a balm, and so therefore you might splash a little bit of water on your face, you might want to do that with this one as well. Yep, just a light scent. Use that up. I probably prefer my Sterling balms to that one, and some of the other popular makers have balms. I might prefer it to this one, but I just threw it in there just for grins. I got it on sale, so I think it's worth it. All right, there we go. Happy camper. Yeah, except for the brush, it's a little disappointing that it wasn't more relaxed. But like I said, we're going to give it more uses, give it more time. And very happy with the razor. I'm not experiencing any kind of irritation. Like I said before, it didn't last very long at all. The tenderness that I felt during maybe that one of those passes is pretty much gone. So good there. I feel like I nailed the lather in terms of the water-soap ratio. For this brush, because of its stiffness, it might have liked to have a thicker lather, but for all my other softer brushes, this just would have been perfect. It was slick, still very creamy, really enjoyable, but also very well hydrated. So happy there. Very good. All right, not a strong scent with this soap. I really did have to, I'm going to say a 3 or a 4 out of 10. I really did, to get a good nose on it, I'd really had to put the bowl up in my face to really enjoy it. So obviously he's not one to bother people with scent strength with this particular batch. All right, well there we go. Sure hope there's been something in this video to help you out. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. You guys take care.